I recently heard about a survival hack that is so crazy it might actually work. Imagine you're in a survival situation, you managed to build a fire, but you're out of drinking water. There's water around, there's a stream nearby, but you don't know if it's safe to drink. You don't have a filter, you have a fire to boil water, but you don't have a container to boil water in. What do? I've heard a rumor you can boil drinking water in leaves. Let's try that, see if we can get it to work. Since we already have a fire going, I guess the next step would be find some leaves, which shouldn't be too difficult, being out in the woods and all. Should we use live leaves or dead leaves? Not everywhere has broadleaf evergreens, so dead leaves would probably be more common year-round in a lot of locations. Let's see if we can find some suitable leaves on the ground. Oak leaves are very common in many parts of the world. Problem is, they are heavily lobed. They have these projections called lobes, and these sinuses in between. That could be a problem for being a container because water could run out those. But if we could find a variation that's not as heavily lobed, madrone leaves are not lobed, they don't have those sinuses. This might make a better container, but madrone is not common in most parts of the world. What about this oak leaf? The sinuses aren't very deep. We could make a container out of that. Make a little basin in the coals to set it down in. Now we'll go fill it up with water. Hopefully you built your fire really close to the water source so you don't have to walk a long distance and spill it all. I may not have thought this out as well as I could have. Fire's way over there. I think the challenge here is going to be to get it down in there without spilling it. Ooh, and without getting burned. I did spill most of the water. Maybe the better way to do this is get the leaf down in there and pour water into it. Maybe the good thing is the leaf is starting to curl from the heat in the direction we want it to. How is this supposed to work? Wouldn't the leaf burn in the fire? Maybe you've seen the common demonstration where they boil water in a paper cup. The idea is the water keeps the container cool enough that it won't burn. I'm guessing the edges will burn eventually. Water's warm, but will this endure long enough to boil? Are the coals underneath it still hot enough to boil? And if the edges of the leaf burn off, how are we going to get it out of there without getting burned? While we're waiting for that, let's get a madrone leaf, see if that one works any better. In a real survival situation, I would think we would want to have a bunch of them in there just because that's not very much water, and in case something goes wrong, we don't want all of our water in one leaf. Probably a good idea to wash the leaf off first. I don't know if there's going to be much, if any, water in here by the time I get it down in there. Hope we like ash flavored water. I think it's better to put it in there then pour the water in it. My concern with this one, it's going to evaporate before it ever boils. Maybe the coals under it aren't hot enough. That water's just not very hot. Let's try putting it up where it is hot. Definitely not the most efficient way to get good drinking water. But if you're out somewhere stranded, you're waiting for someone to rescue you, or you need to sit it out for the night, I guess you have nowhere to be. What else do you have to do? Let's try this leaf upside down. Some leaves prefer to curl upside down. Curl the other way, I mean. Not this one. I think that's part of it. Find out which way the leaf wants to naturally curl. Don't tell anybody this, but I'm cheating a little bit here. That might be the way to do it. Let the heat curl the leaf a little bit, then pour the water in before it burns up. This doesn't look real promising. Most of this water is either leaking out or evaporating before it's boiling. Let's try a live leaf, an alive leaf. Maybe the hot coals just aren't hot enough. Spilling water in them isn't really helping that situation. Maybe we need fire. This one's dried up. I hope you like ash in your water. The ones in the coals just evaporated before they ever boiled. Those ashy coals just weren't hot enough. Didn't work out so well. Let's try something different. I think we need actual fire. I had fire, but it just went out. We're getting bubbles forming at the bottom. Is it going to work? Will it work before the leaf loses its structural integrity and dumps the water out? Okay, the edge of it's boiling. It's boiling on one edge. I think that's about all we can do before the water falls in. We got that much. Is that enough boiling to have purified the water? I got a little bit of a sip there of maybe, ow, this leaf is still burning. Little bit of sip there of questionable water. Let's see if we can use the heat to form this bigger live leaf into a better container. Let's try something a little bit different here. See if we can do this without smothering the fire with the leaf, or put it out with the water. That one's definitely getting hot faster. Is that boiling? Looks like it might be boiling. I got this much water. I was able to boil a little swig of water in a leaf. Let's see if we can get this to work with the dead oak leaf. This is a really tough way to try to survive, but if you were really desperate, maybe this would work. You want to make sure your leaf isn't some kind of poisonous leaf, of course. It's starting to boil a little on this side. It's starting to burn on that side too. Just don't have enough heat under it on this side. Very quickly started to boil just as I caught it, as it was about to spill. I ended up with just a little taste of water that did boil for a short time. Is that going to qualify for the full minute they recommend boiling water for? Questionable. Let's try this again with the live leaf. I think that's been boiling a minute. That's an even bigger swig of water. Don't try this yourself until you verify from some real experts that this is safe to drink, not just some guy on YouTube. Tastes like hot leaf. It's not bad. Is it good? Good is a strong word. I don't know if I'd use that one. Hopefully I wouldn't be in a situation where I was super thirsty, because that wasn't very much water. But if I was in a situation where I had nothing better to do than boil little bits of water in leaves, I guess it would be okay. What's the takeaway here? I think it's try really hard not to get yourself in a survival situation where you're dependent on something like this. I would not want to have to depend on something like that to get a drink of water. But at the same time, I think we established proof of concept. You can boil water in a leaf, which I think is an amazing concept in itself. Dead oak leaves did not work well. I'm thinking live ones probably wouldn't either. Oak leaves are very thin. They also have those deep lobes in them. That causes a problem. These madrone leaves worked a lot better. Evergreen leaves tend to be thicker. I think that helps. If you're wondering why I'm calling these broadleaves evergreen, if I remember, I'll put a link in the description to the video I made about the difference between evergreen and deciduous. A lot of people, maybe even most people, are still confused about what evergreen means. I was trying harder to get the dead oak leaves to work because I think oak is more widespread here in North America. Dead leaves would be available year-round, but the live ones definitely worked better. If you're in a tropical rainforest, big banana leaves, down in those places, you probably got all kinds of options down there. Get a big old banana leaf, you could boil a half a gallon of water in that, maybe. I've never done this before, so my techniques here were very rudimentary, which is just a fancy way of saying they weren't that good. But if someone was to practice this more, maybe they would figure out some better techniques for doing that. Whoever it was who came up with the idea to boil water in leaves, it wasn't me. I don't know who came up with the idea, but I have to give them kudos for that. That's just using your head. It's coming up with an out-of-the-box idea, even if it's not a good one. There are the people who would say, I could tell you right off the bat, that ain't gonna work. Humans didn't advance in life from saying, that ain't gonna work. Although some of them stayed alive because they said, that ain't gonna work. But most of our advancements come from somebody coming up with some outside-the-box idea, thinking, I'm gonna try that, see if it works. But if you ever try something like this that involves your health and safety, make sure you consult an expert, make sure what you're doing is safe, make sure the leaves you're using are not toxic, make sure you're boiling the water long enough. I don't know if those little bubbles in there qualify as a rolling boil. They say you need to get water up to, but in a survival situation, when you're thirsty, you're thirsty. On that note, I'm going to go pour myself a tall glass of cold, clear water that I didn't have to boil in leaves, and I'm going to go to town on it. If you want to know how to build a survival fire quickly, I'll put a video up here somewhere about the technique my grandpa taught me when I was just a kid, how to get a fire started quickly in just about any conditions. Maybe you can watch that over a nice tall glass of cold, clear water that you didn't have to boil in leaves. And I'll put the one about the difference between evergreen and deciduous either up here in the description or both. If I remember, then you can be one of the very few who are not confused about what an evergreen tree is and what a deciduous tree is.